So, I know I said I was going to be making like singing videos and music videos, but I was in a reading slump and I decided that I need to get out of this reading slump. So I went on Kindle Unlimited and I got the first book that caught my eye. It's called Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges. It is a dark stalker romance. It has a rating of 3.68 on Goodreads with over 33,968 reviews, although that was on July 10th, 2024, so that very well could change. Some backstory on me before we get started. I like dark romance. I like the added tension. I think that the situations of dark romance can be very real. The way that it can convince different characters and different audience members of different things. I think it's interesting. Just a small warning before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of the book. It contains stalking, murder, violence, sexual assault, and the death of a family member. So viewer discretion is advised. The book opens with Hayden Bennett, who is our hero. He's the usual dark romance hero, very tall, very large, has this domineering aura that they all have, apparently. That was in the frame the entire time, I apologize, but I'm not going to refilm it. Okay. Anyway, he's tall, he's large, he's with, dark hair, and he has like one little curl that like sneaks onto his forehead even though he's so well kept, I always see these guys as Henry Cavill because I'm pretty sure that's who they're all based on, so going forward I will use Henry Cavill as my insert. So he's at a funeral. At is a questionable word. He is watching a funeral from the street. He's like brooding and dark, just standing on the road, just glaring down at the funeral because he's dark and the vigilante type. Watching this funeral because he killed the guy, and he gets joy from seeing the sadness that others felt. But Hayden is a vigilante, of course. He's not a bad guy. He doesn't kill just random people. He kills people who have done something wrong. How he finds out they do something wrong, we will learn about later. But as of right now, we know that this man who died, bad guy. So as he watches the funeral, Kalista Green, who is our heroine and also the daughter of the man who died, he's just standing watching her. He watches like no one else. And it's at this point, I think about like 3 Kindle pages in, that we get the line that really gave me the knowledge that this was going to be an interesting read. It says, Miss Green simply stares ahead, unblinking, her gaze sparkling with thought, her eyes becoming crystallized honey. What does that mean? What? How? Huh? I'm sorry. Huh? No clue. Nah, what does that even mean? I don't... Anyway, after staring at her for an uncomfortable amount of time because he's a, creepy, dark villain guy, he notices that she, like, takes care of the staff, even though it's above her station. These are, like, real words that are used. And he thinks that is just so good, so hot, because she cares about the people who work for her and have probably lived in the same house with her for her entire life. Wow. After everyone leaves, Kalista finally breaks. She falls to her knees and sobs, and Hayden is confused because he's never felt sympathy. He keeps talking about he doesn't feel these emotions and he doesn't know where they're coming from, that type of thing. Basically, in that moment when she's sobbing on her knees next to the dirt, he becomes obsessed with her. That's like our really big launch point. The next chapter is from Kalista's POV, where we are introduced to the only character with half a brain cell, Harper. She is just Harper from Wizards of Waverly Place. She is the quirky, boy-obsessed, loving, loud best friend, and that's her entire character. She has no other personality other than that. We never see anything interesting or any, real plot with her. She's just there for Kalista's sanity, I suppose. But she works at the Sugar Cube, and we find out later that this is actually a month after the funeral, and that she is flat broke for some reason. Even though it was established that with her father she grew up super wealthy, but I guess he didn't have a will or didn't leave anything to her. She's a full-grown adult. She's like 25, I think. So I don't know why she doesn't get any of his assets or anything, because they talked about how rich he was. Okay, something to establish is Callista's cleanliness slash like OCD thing that they really are trying to insinuate. The amount of times I have read about lemon scented hand sanitizer, and I would understand if it were a clear through line throughout and it was something that that the author absolutely stuck to and really commented on, and really like it would have immersed her character if she was this person. But we don't get that, because at one point she's running through a deserted alley barefoot, and we don't hear once about how she hates that grossness. Like, she talks about how gross the bottom of her feet are afterwards, but we don't get any of thoughts about, like, her being uncomfortable because of this, or her, like, freaking out. Like, we get nothing. Makes it seem like it isn't just a part of her. Like, it isn't her. It's just, like, it is a quirky thing that was thrown in whenever the author remembered. So a private investigator comes in, and we find out that Kalista has been hiring this investigator to get to the bottom of her father's murderer. It also explains why she doesn't have any money left, even though, because she spent it all on this one PI, apparently. He basically tells her that he doesn't have any info and that she needs to pay for next month, which she can't do, so he leaves, and that's basically kind of the last time we see him. The big scary Hayden comes in the coffee shop and orders a large plain black coffee, because he's I'll take my whiskey, you know, that kind of guy. It's obvious that Kalista knows him, but we don't know how she knows him yet. We will find that out later. He takes a seat in the corner, and I imagine is just like staring at her the entire time like this. Kalista then begins to be harassed by some guy because she accidentally spilled some coffee on him while trying to make him a sandwich. I don't know. But Hayden then takes this as a perfect opportunity to choke someone out at 12 p.m. On like a Tuesday in a busy coffee shop. And Kalista doesn't even try to stop him. He just keeps choking the guy until he apologizes. Also, this is a full coffee shop. They keep specifying this brunch rush. Like, every time Calista is in the coffee shop, they talk about this brunch rush. And so this is brunch rush. And so everyone's in here, but no one does anything to the guy being choked out. They don't, like, some random guy literally almost dies in front of 20 people or so, and they do nothing. And I do mean die, because they say only when the customer's eyes are bulging from his skull does Bennett finally release him. Another issue I have is that they call Hayden Mr. Bennett. It's his last name, so it makes sense. But I am a huge Pride and Prejudice fan, so hearing that as your male lead's last name is just weird for me, I guess. I guess just because it is such a big pop culture thing, and maybe not even pop culture, just literary culture. You know what I mean? I keep thinking every time I hear it of Benjamin, oh fuck, what's his name? Pride and Benjamin Whitrow. I keep thinking of Benjamin Whitrow, and that poor guy does not deserve this. So Hayden leaves, and we learn through Callista's inner monologue that he was the prosecutor against her father. Hayden is a morally gray character that kills the people that he goes against in court when they win, because he doesn't think that they're actually innocent, even though the court has ruled them innocent. He's decided to take the law into his own hands. Another small issue I have is that Callista's boss gets there, and her and Harper act as if nothing happened. Like, girls, please tell your boss about the assault that happened at work, because he's gonna find out from some sort of lawsuit or something now. So after work, Kalista has to walk home by herself, and as we have established, she's poor as dirt, so she walks home in this not great neighborhood, and she keeps thinking someone's watching her, which he is. And for some reason, out of the goddamn blue, she just walks into a bar and asks for a job. Like, the entire time this girl has been talking about going home, but now she's walking into a dive bar. Like, it just comes out of nowhere. She just, I guess, had an epiphany and decided that she needed to go into this bar to ask for a job. When we switch to Hayden's POV, we find out that the bar is called T&A, and the waitresses are all dressed, like, super revealing, very short skirts and low-cut tops. Think Hooters or a place of that genre. And so obviously Hayden is confused, because this is this like rich girl who has everything, and she doesn't need to work here. She's so sweet and pure, and she shouldn't, and so why would she go? And then I'm sitting here like, well, maybe you killed her only support system and her father, so maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a inference. I don't. But who am I? So of course he follows her into the bar because she is a lamb amongst a den of lions, pure and helpless. Sure, I'm sure she is. But because Kalista is the heroine of a shitty romance novel, we can assume that she is the most beautiful girl ever. Like, Zendaya, Margot Robbie, got nothing. Sabrina Carpenter, absolute nothing. Got nothing on Kalista Green. You can bet your ass. So, but because of this, everyone's eyes in the bar are just like, you know in books when people do that, that's what happens. Because she goes up to the bar and she's like, can I get a job? And because she's so pretty, the bartender's like, of course you could get a job. You'll start tomorrow. But then we finally get horny Hayden, which we haven't gotten before. But don't worry, he never leaves. You're stuck with him. And he is the bane of my existence. I hate horny Hayden. Anyway, so after Kalista leaves, he goes up to the bartender and threatens him to like not let her work there, which the guy agrees, and Hayden then continues to follow her home, where he stands outside her window to watch her change, and he's like, this is wrong, like, I shouldn't be doing this, but he like still describes her and still talks about her. And this is what he said: she's Godiva, a nude temptress with her hair flowing around her shoulders, ready to seduce and prove the weakness of man. No, she's changing in her room. No, she's actually in the privacy of her own house, just trying to change her clothes to wear pajamas, to go to bed. So Hayden goes home before I do something rash, something that I'll regret, but not because I wouldn't enjoy it. On the contrary, I'd enjoyed it too much. Once he's home, his freak meter hasn't calmed down even just like a little bit. His first line in the chapter being, I pour myself a glass of cognac. The alcohol goes down smoothly, unlike my cock. As well as just like a few lines after where he says, I take a deep breath as if that'll revive me. It doesn't. There's nothing equal to the sweet of a woman. But to come back down off of his horny train, he takes out the USB that he stole from the private investigator earlier. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he threatens to kill the private investigator for speaking to her, and then takes his USB, and that's the last we hear of the PI. So now I get to the real reason why I felt the need to make this video. So on the USB, he looks through the evidence, and basically he knows everything. The only thing new is a picture of Kalista, and she's super badly beaten, and it's obviously someone taking the photos to document what the bruises and beating was. But he knows that the person taking the photos was her father, based on the ring that he was wearing, because his ring was like shown holding back her hair or something. I don't know. This then lets him know that her father's alibi for that night of the murder was actually real, and he probably didn't kill his secretary the way that Hayden assumed. So now Hayden's entire moral compass is just in the air. But does he freak out? No, he doesn't. He immediately just starts thinking, like, who did this to her? Like, how did this happen? But it's like, you killed a man who didn't deserve to be killed. So what do you mean? So Hayden calls up his hacker, and that's literally what he calls him. I think his name is like Zach or something, but he's basically just referred to as hacker. Like Cyber Chase. Wait. Anyway, that'll be my insert picture. I don't know what my insert picture will be from him, but it's gonna be Hacker from Cyber Chase. So he calls Hacker and tries to find where Kalista was in the hospital. But he can't find anything. So now his obsession has grown because now there's a mystery. This book has him flip-flopping like nobody's business. 2 pages ago, he was talking about how much he wanted to like keep her safe and protect her. But now he's saying, I suppose opposites attract, a principle in magnetism. I accept I should be repelled by her, not wanting to get closer, but I have to, even if it ends with her broken. You pick one. You can care or not care, but you need to choose, because it's confusing when the character just switches back and forth. So I don't know if he cares about himself or her. And that's like, it's a big issue in this book. We open chapter 8 with her once again talking about her need for cleanliness, where it says, I wiped down every table and the countertops. Although I'm sure my boss did that before he left for the night. Even so, I can't help it. I like for things to be orderly and neat. Actually, that's just your job. Like, you should wipe down the tables, even if they did it last night. Like, they're like, that's not crazy. That's not like a weird, quirky thing to do. Oh my god. And then on the next page, which I totally forgot, Harper says, "Is that happiness on your face because of a man? Don't tell me it's because of the sanitizer," which it is, by the way. She's... Sorry, my mom came in to give me towels. It's in this chapter that we start with one of my least favorite bits in this book, where every time Harper refers to Hayden, or Mr. Bennett as she calls him, she always adds some sort of dirty-minded description in front of it. For example, Mr. Be My Lawyer Daddy Bennett, which I'm sorry I had to read out loud, and I'm sorry you had to listen to. So Hayden walks into the sugar cube, not during the rush, hopefully to avoid an attempted murder charge, because, you know, you can never tell with this man. But he walks in and says, he isn't here to get coffee, or, no, that's not what he says. Sorry, I'll read it for you. "I'm not here for sustenance," is a thing that this man actually did say. He said that. That's his words, not mine. Not my words, not my words. But he basically lets her know that he wants to find her father's killer, and it's finally here where Harper becomes my favorite character, because Kalista starts to have a panic attack, because this guy is the prosecutor that went against her father and was, like, really awful to him and to her on the stand. And so when she's freaking out and, like, starts to have a panic attack, Harper, like, hugs her and, like, to take her away from Hayden, and, like, gives Hayden a dirty look. And I was like, thank God. A woman who's actually taking care of another woman in a dark romance book. I never thought I'd see the day. But even after this, Kalista still decides to have a conversation with this man and, like, hear him out, because what if he says something? Like, what if he can help her? But the entire conversation is him trying to convince her to work with him. But she's actually smart for once and trusts her gut when it's telling her that he's lying to her, which is a rare occurrence in this book. But you know what? I'll take it. It's a small win. So she finishes her shift at the Sugar Cube and she goes to TNA because no one told her that she was fired. Where it's a different guy behind the bar. So she goes, she gets changed, she changes into her uniform, and it's really giving off like a Hooters vibe, like I said before, very low cut, very short. I could honestly skip this, but the author really wanted Kalista to have her little Cinderella moment. So of course, when she steps into the bar, all eyes are on her, and like, blah blah blah, she's so beautiful, oh my gosh. So then she starts working, but like has no training. And this could just be the, like, restaurant worker inside of me, but the bartender just tells her to bring the beer to table 11 as if she's going to know where that is. So she goes over to a table to deliver the beer, and of course, this can't be a normal interaction. It's a dark romance book. We need constant things happening. So this guy, Grady, that is his name, I'm not lying, we immediately know that he's a piece of shit because he says, "Being scared isn't exactly a no." I don't know why that's his voice, but I guess it is. He's not here for very long because Kalista drops the beers and then walks away, and instead of, you know, copping a feel the normal way like a tit or an ass, he goes for the hair. He's like, "Oh, it's so soft." And then she turned away, and then he ripped his thumb out of the socket. His thumb dangles from his hand. Not completely removed, but it's closed. Wait, so he didn't even, like, this, he ripped it off. But of course, she leaves with him because he saved her. Also, the entire fighting interaction, he was basically just repeating, "She's mine, she's mine." Like, are we trying to be a discreet stalker or not? But don't worry, she doesn't pick up on it at all. Doesn't even question it. Is like, sure, yeah, this guy's claiming me, I guess. It's fine. He's beating up this other guy, ripping off his thumb. So they just leave the bar where he yells at her for daring to get a job to support herself after he killed her support system. And then on top of it all, he picks her up and basically throws her over his shoulder at like 4 p.m. Like, she mentions other people and being embarrassed and feeling like shitty. But she also doesn't seem that worried that she's getting kidnapped, so I don't know. When they get to her place, she gives him her address. He doesn't just, like, go. Because at least we have that. He looks at her where she's just obviously so uncomfortable and, like, huddled over herself and holding herself. And the way he talks about her is so demeaning and not something you really want from someone who is supposed to be a romantic lead, even though he is a stalker. Like, he doesn't care about her at all. Instead of being normal
He chooses to be a freak every time. She has her head bowed, hands in my lap, with her hair draped over her shoulders and my coat. I enjoy seeing it on her. It's a small way of possessing her.
Then, when she's actually trying to have a conversation with him about how she doesn't like how overbearing and protective he is, because who is he? Who is he? This is basically his thought process the entire time. She eyes me warily before licking her lips. My is in its pants, and I grit my teeth to keep from grabbing her and mouth. I feel violated. I just feel a little violated. She's trying to have like an adult normal conversation. He then asks her about the photo in the file, and she's like, where did you get that? How did you get that? He doesn't answer that, of course. But she obviously doesn't want to tell him. And instead of taking a no, he pushes her and ends up trying to like literally shake the information out of her. So she gets out of the car, but not before Hayden can toss one last jab at her. He gave her his coat when they got out of the bar because obviously she's not wearing too many things. So he says, there's no need to draw attention to yourself when you walk inside. You've done enough of that for one evening. She was touched by two men that she didn't want to be touched by tonight, and one of them was you. Sorry, she's trying to make a living for herself. Like, oh my god. After he goes inside, it gets so weird, and we're left with this ominous cliffhanger where he says, except tonight, it's not enough, referring to watching her through her window. So I wonder where that's gonna go. That'll be exciting to see. But then we switch to Calista's point of view, where we get how they met. And in this chapter, I shit you not, their meet cute. The reason why, like, she's still talking to him and is, like, kind of obsessed with him. Not obsessed, but likes him a lot. And he is obsessed with her. The reason is when they were in the courthouse, he was the first man who looked at her with, like, desire, with lust, who wanted her. And that's the reason that that's their great coming together. That's, like, that spark, is that they're both sexually attracted to each other.
Oh my gosh, 10 seconds later. And his displays of violence don't shock or frighten me. They seduce me. Huh? Girl, he almost ripped someone's thumb off like an hour ago. Not even. Like 40 minutes ago. He like ripped someone's thumb off. I don't know if we remember that. Because he touched your hair.
So that's where Calista's POV ends, and I shit you not, we open Hayden's POV with him looking at the cameras that he has set up in her house. The book just kind of skirts over him setting these cameras up. He says he did it after he talked with a prosecutor while she was at work, but we don't know how he got into her house, but we just know that he did it and that she doesn't know it all. Like, they're secret cameras, like they're small and hidden or whatever. So now he is driving and watching her masturbate while driving, and I shit you not, like, talks about how there's other cars on the road who keep honking at him, and I wanted so badly for him to crash, and like this would be a turning point, and then but alas, he just turns into a dark alley to finish himself off.
My guy is having crazy post-nut talking. He's just in his car, cranked one out, and now we're just conversing with ourselves. I refuse to be alone in my obsession, I grit out between clenched teeth. You will suffer like me. I'll accept nothing less than maybe we can ease the desperation in one another as I fuck you until there's nothing left of me, until I've lost myself in you so completely that I no longer recognize myself. There were commas in there, but you know he didn't say it with those. If he's really saying it out loud, there's no need for a comma.
So now he is going crazy, like an insane man driven by how horny he is. So he turns right around and breaks into her house where she is asleep, thank goodness. But the first thing that he mentions, don't worry, is her lemon hand sanitizer, of course. And how cute and like sweet and quirky that is, because I don't know. But then we come upon one of the craziest things I have ever read, and I really don't know if I want this soundbite out here, but here it is.
So she's had this pearl necklace this entire time that, like, keeps being referenced and is obviously some, like, meaningful to her. She wears it all the time. I'm gonna read something. Now the only color in the dark room is the string of pearls around her neck. I carefully remove them and grip them in my fist, my thoughts becoming clearer the longer I stare at the necklace. Kalista. Kalista forced me to myself. She pulled my cum from my body with my name on her lips and her moan in my ears. I snapped the string holding the pearls together. Selecting a single orb, I place it on the nightstand right where she'll see it when she opens her eyes. One pearl for one bit of cum, until I give her a pearl necklace all over her skin, marking her as mine. I don't think I've ever wanted to not continue something more. That's the craziest thing I've ever read.
He then proceeds to take the rest of the pearl necklace, as well as a pair of her underwear, as a small consolation for not fucking her like I want to. He then lets us know through his inner monologue that he's doing this so that she'll be scared and feel frightened, that she'll run to him because he's the only one who can protect her, and she knows that because look what he did tonight. You know, ripping someone's thumb off. So then we get to the next chapter with Kalista at work, kind of freaked out by the whole necklace debacle. Harper notices and tries to discuss it, but somehow fails to make the connection to Hayden. Even though during this conversation, Kalista tells Harper that he showed up 3 seconds after she started working and almost ripped some guy's thumb off.
And she was like, well, who should you tell? And then Harper just said his name. And I'm like, how are we not connecting the dots? Because then she tells Harper that he showed up at TNA like 3 seconds after she started working. That doesn't tell Harper. Harper's the one character I feel like I can trust. I've got nothing.
But it's at this section that I kind of got into it. When Hayden isn't being a creepy character, he is kind of charming. I think if this book stayed primarily the same, with the violence and stalking taken out, I think this would be an interesting story of a lawyer trying to get to the bottom of a drug crime ring that has targeted the person that he likes. In these scenes too, he is a much better stalker character. He's able to manipulate her, and it reads as believable. It reads as someone taking someone else's words and gaslighting them and flipping it on them, and not this overbearing, violent stalker that he has been this entire time. It's believable, and her falling for it also makes sense, and I don't view her as dumb or stupid because of it. This part being nicer may also be because it's not from Hayden's POV. I think you could actually even keep all of the stalker stuff in if you didn't switch to his point of view, because it takes all the mystery and that tension away from it. If it was just Kalista, you would probably be able to guess that it was Hayden because he's the one who shows up the most and he's the obvious love interest. But I think not knowing what he is thinking and just seeing his actions and how they played out would be a lot more impactful than being able to hear his every thought. In my notes, as soon as we got back to Hayden's POV, I wrote, no, please don't make me go back to Hayden's POV, please, please, please. But then, when we get to his POV, we get hit with a surprise Oedipus complex. My mother's features briefly take over in the form of blonde hair and light blue eyes. He's talking about looking at Kalista, viewing her, and seeing his mother in her, I guess. He then explains to Kalista and to the audience that his mom was addicted to some sort of pain med / date rape drug. It's not super clear. It's kind of an amalgamation of both, I guess. Honestly, 45% to 65% of the way through, it's kind of normal. It's mostly Kalista talking about how attracted she is to Hayden and the constant battle of not knowing how he feels. But what does that happen is that he Allie after she ran away from him, and he admits that he's obsessed with her, but they don't have sex because he is very respectful. But he also finds out that the result of the bruises from the picture is because she was laced with the same substance that his mom was addicted to. However, it is unclear that if she was sexually assaulted or not for some reason. For some reason, we don't get to know that. Also, now that we've gone to the sexual stuff, I just want to talk about how Hayden speaks and thinks during sex. For one, he doesn't mention anything about her pleasure, ever, until maybe the third to last chapter, but that's even pushing it a little bit. His favorite term to use is also pretty. like says it and thinks it a lot, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Makes my skin crawl. At this point, she has admitted to Hayden that she has a stalker. She does this to protect him from whoever could be after her, which is valid and fair. Like, you want to warn people that you care about. But he, of course, says that she has to stay here now because it'll be so much safer. And you know what? Fair enough. Valid manipulation. What is going on? No one say anything about my part. If you do, I'll cry. But she's just like, ooh, he's not going to force himself to have sex, but will very much, at the very least, scare her into letting him her in a dirty alley. Remember the cleanliness thing? Out the damn window! But then we get this quote, and this really took me off guard and like pisses me off. It says, I might be fighting my attraction to him, but Hayden is fighting more than that. He's battling his primal instincts. Girl, like, no? Like, what else can I say? Battling his primal instincts? He is being such a brave boy by not having sex with me. Like, huh? So now he's being really real about his possessive behavior, but for some reason, the thought of her stalker and him being the same person never crosses her mind. Even when he says shit like, do you hear me, Kelly? That's his cute little nickname. That's his little pet name for Kalista is Callie. Creative. And she literally says, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. She literally says, no one's ever called me that before. Really? No one's ever called you Callie before? For Kalista? Anyway, back to the quote. I'll never leave you. Not in this life or whatever comes after. You are mine, and I will burn this world to fucking ashes before I let anything take you from me or me from you. But she is just so turned on by this that they make out in the kitchen, but because he's a gentleman, he doesn't touch her, like, do anything. So the next day he goes to work and forbids her from leaving the apartment because of course, which she ignores and visits Harper at work. But there is like no consequences for this. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't even care, it seems, which is fine, but it doesn't make sense for his character. From all of the Haydens we've seen, there is no explanation or we don't see him softening or anything. He told her not to leave, but is okay with it. So Hayden now sees Kalista as his like redemption chance for his mom. I think if this man went to one therapy session, he would really be able to unpack a lot of this, because I'm pretty sure that the majority of all of this trauma and issues that he's facing is just mommy issues. Get some help, go to a psychiatrist, get some medication, have fun, live your life. But they go out to eat, where Hayden makes this crazy statement.
I stare at Hayden, stunned into silence by his passionate declaration. Marriage and money, just to prove his devotion and commitment to me? I don't know whether to be flattered or frightened by the intensity of his feelings. They have always bordered on obsession. Bordered? He's admitted. He's literally said to your face that he is obsessed with you. Are we forgetting? Did we forget what happened last night?
But after this conversation, he promises to never stop wanting her, and whatever she is ready first, they'll be fine, and he'll wait for her, and it's very sweet and romantic, and she's obviously taken by this. And at first, I really thought they were gonna have sex in this restaurant. They didn't, thank God. But he does eat on the way to his apartment in the elevator. So everything is just so happy. She's planning on moving in, but she's worried because Hayden won't touch her. I think it's been like 3 weeks. We get like a 3-week time skip, which they don't talk about. It's just random. She's at work and like talking to Harper, and she's like, he won't touch me. And I'm like, well, we don't remember last night. And Harper's been like, it's been 3 weeks. And we're like, got it. But we get no other explanation other than that. But she's planning on dressing up for him and trying to seduce the guy and like, you know, the fun stuff. So she decides that her favorite blazer is like the best option. Like, she'll look cute, sexy, it's his clothes. But in the pocket, dum dum dum, she finds the pearls.
We're currently 93% of the way in. She just found the pearls in his pocket. I'm making a prediction that by the end of this book, she's gonna leave because there's a second book. So I don't think they're ending up together in this book. But that's my prediction, and we'll see if I'm right.
But before we get any more of her reaction, we switch back to Hayden, who is slamming his fists on the desks because he can't find anything out about her assault, so he gets more and more paranoid, and he heads home, and he finds her sitting by the window, and she presents him with the pearls. The end. In the end, I'll give this book a 2.5 out of 5. When Hayden isn't being a crazy violent stalker, he can actually be charming and kind, at least when we're in Kalista's POV. I don't know. If there's any saving him in his POV, it's kind of impossible. I just feel like Kalista wasn't a character. She was a prop. She had a backbone, but the entire time she was agreeing that it was a matter of time before she ended up with. She kept saying, like, no, I won't be with you. But in her head, she was like, I'm so drawn to him. I'll be with him, I guess, someday, but I need to keep fighting. And it's not fun if the character admits defeat so early on, I guess. Because she did. She admitted she did. But yeah, there's a second book called Now You're Mine. Maybe I will read it. I haven't spoiled it for myself yet, but I think I'm going to need a few months and actually a few good books before I can get ready for that. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I said I'd be doing music stuff, and my first video isn't music stuff, and this is probably not good for my views or whatever, but I don't care. I wanted to make a video of something I like. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Before I go, do you guys want a bat fact? The painted bat. Ta-da! The small, attractive bat occurs across much of Southeast Asia. This is a species of dry forest and also plantations. It emerges after dark to undertake hunting flights that last an hour or two. It takes prey from on and around foliage near the ground, such as grasses and bushes, using a slow, fluttering flight. This bat has been observed roosting in male-female pairs, the female also often accompanied by her single offspring within folds of dying banana leaves. That's your bat fact. Bye.